Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Dear viewers, you are watching Thaqalayn Talks presented to you by Noor Online Islamic Center. I am Atad, the host of this program. Throughout this holy month of Ramadan, we'll present to you insightful discussions related to the holy month of Ramadan, Islamic lifestyle, the life of Ahlul Bayt, and the Holy Quran. Within the studio, we have for tonight's discussion Sayed Ali Musawi Jazayeri. Assalamu alaikum, Sayed Ali. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, dear brother Ata. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. I am very glad and happy, dear brother Ata, to be with you another night and another time. I had this privilege to be with you and our dear audience, dear brothers and sisters, I think on the third night of the holy month of Ramadan, and this is the second session. And inshallah, I hope that this session will be the session of commemorating the remembrance of the Holy Quran and the Holy Prophet and his sacred household.
Inshallah.
And we will have a very beneficial and advantageous dialogue, inshallah.
Inshallah. That's right. And the main topic for today's episode of the program, Thaqalayn Talks, is inner peace and how to reach calmness in our life. So, sadly, in today's world, in today's fast-speak, hectic world, everybody is looking for peace of heart, peace of soul, peace of mind inside. And different schools of thought try to encourage the people to reach calmness, tranquility, serenity, and peace of heart and mind, of course, in their own ways. What are your suggestions and how do you define peace and tranquility of the heart and soul according to Islamic teachings?
Good. Thank you so much for opening the discussion and presenting the topic of today's discussion. Yes, this is one of the most concerns of the contemporary human being, the peace, tranquility and comfort and ease and stability and constant feeling and sense of relief in the life. If I want to summarize the whole discussion and deliver a key word of this topic, I would say the whole discussion refers back to one point and one word, that is the meaning of the life.
Very good.
Okay. What do we mean by the meaning of the life? The meaning of the life is that metaphysical realm of the existence of every single human being. Every human being is composed of two aspects. The life of us is composed of two aspects. The material, visible, touchable, sensory, physical, bodily aspect, and the metaphysical, invisible, immaterial aspect. That immaterial metaphysical theory that stands behind the curtain of the territory of our heart and our bodily actions and conducts is the meaning of the life of us. The way that we look at the universe, the way that we look at the existence and essence of human being and its potentials and faculties and its destinations and objectives, and the way that this world is created and designed and organized. This is the meaning of the life. In accordance to this meaning, we can find the life of the friends of God, or awliyaullah, including anbiya, the prophets of God, and their divinely designated successors, like our A'immah, that were the successors of the last messenger of God, in accordance to a sort of a special meaning of the life, a special metaphysical theory that stands behind all their conducts.
Yes.
They were able to pursue and establish actually a very stable, solid way and fabric of the life that would not go up and down in accordance to the ups and downs of an ordinary, typical material life of this world.
That's right.
They were totally stable, and they never actually lose this sense of tranquility and peace and certainty and relief in their life. Let me bring
I'm
up.
sorry, Said, before getting to more examples, and this is, I think, the last we can say point in the lives of so many people
Of course.
in today's world.
Of course.
They look everywhere. I mean, through psychology, sociology, therapy. Okay, so even medicine. I mean, in terms of the physical medicine and medication. They are looking, or mysticism even, they are looking for this peace of mind and heart and tranquility. Unfortunately, most of them are not successful. So you believe that the practical guidelines given by the A'immas and awliyaullah regarding inner peace and relief can be helpful for even today's people.
Of course.
Although they belong to, for example, more than 1,000 years ago,
Of
I mean,
course.
they themselves, but they are still purposeful and practical.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Their practical actually procedure and manner is very beneficial when we are able to figure out and to discover the intellectual and theoretical ideas and viewpoints that stand actually behind those practical aspects.
Very good.
Let me bring up an example.
Very good.
It is a real example that had taken place for myself several years ago. I guess 10 years ago, in my father's house, we had some guests. Our relatives were invited to my father's house, and we were the host. And at that time, there was a road construction operation exactly behind the back wall of the house of my father.
Mhm.
Just next to the wall of the house, there were big vehicles of this road construction operation, this road roller machine that is a very heavy vehicle that is able to actually hit the soil and the small pieces of stones in order to prepare the road to be paved with asphalt.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yes.
This big heavy roller, as soon as it passes a very small piece of a stone, it would move. And this movement of this very heavy roller caused a movement and shake in the structure of the building of my father's house.
Okay, because
So
it was close to it.
It was very close.
Okay.
As it moved, the structure, the whole structure of the actually building of my father's house would move and shake,
Okay.
and the glass of the windows were actually vibrated.
Mhm.
Although the day of that party was Friday, and we did not expect the workers and those actually engineers work at that Friday, despite this fact, they started working one more time, and we were in the gathering of our guests.
Okay.
Okay? Me and my father were totally aware of the event that taken place.
Mhm.
But the guests were not aware of the thing that was taking place behind the wall. So all of them assumed and thought that this is an earthquake.
Mhm.
As soon as this machine started moving, the structure of the building started shaking.
Yes.
So some of them were afraid, some of them started to rush to the door of the house, some of them were scaring, some of them took refuge under the tables and in the framework of the doors.
Mhm.
Why? Because the way that they look at this physical event, the background, the actually theory and the idea that was supporting this physical event and phenomenon that was taking place was the fact that it is an earthquake.
Okay.
But we, as the host of the house, and the owner of the house, were totally aware that it is not an earthquake. It is the effect of the movement of that roller.
So
Okay.
you with this presupposition did not fear, and they as the guest, because they thought and they took it wrong with the earthquake,
Exactly.
they were frightened.
Although the scene in which we were engaged was the same.
Mhm.
Okay?
Okay.
The physical phenomenon was the same, but in accordance to different viewpoints in analysis of this physical phenomenon, the desire and the emotion and the feeling that occurred in the territory of our hearts was totally different.
Okay.
We were totally calm and comfortable. But our guests were totally afraid and scared. So in every single situation that we come up with the feeling of worry, anxiety, depression, actually sorrowfulness, sadness, we have to be aware that this sadness and this feeling and emotion that occurs in the territory of our heart is the effect of the worldview, of the viewpoint, of the analysis, of the doctrine, of the actually theoretical framework in accordance to which we analyze and we figure out the reality of the phenomenon that takes place around us.
That's right.
Let's go to some of instances and examples from the life of awliyaullah, the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's go to the life of the commander of the faithful, to actually his last moments of his sacred holy life. One quotation and one sentence that was alluded to in the biography of the commander of the faithful, and actually we read it as maqtal of the commander of the faithful, is this sentence, martyrdom account.
Yes.
But it was very remarkable and noticeable for me from this viewpoint. We read in that martyrdom account of the commander of the faithful that أخذت الضربة من مفرق رأسه إلى موضع السجود. We all know that he was hit by some of the hypocrites, that was Ibn Muljam, while he was praying and he was prostrating.
Yes.
The book and the actually biographies say that the blow of the sword of that hypocrite split his holy head from the middle until the place where he prostrated.
Yes.
From here until here. Just imagine that situation.
Mm-hmm.
How scaring is that? How difficult is that?
Yes.
فلما أحس الإمام بالضرب لم يتأوه وصبر واحتسب. As soon as he felt the blow, not only did he not shout and scream, but he also did not moan. No one could hear his whimper. He took patience and started whispering to God in anticipation of his reward.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do? What actually I would you do if I were in his place in this situation? He didn't shout. He didn't whimper. He just started whispering with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala some sentences. وَاحْتَسَبَ. And he asked his reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He did not lose his calmness, his temper,
yes.
his stability in such situation.
Yes.
The famous account related to Lady Zainab Salamullah alayha, after the tragedy of Karbala,
yes.
after losing his brother, after losing his actually family, after losing the companions, the loyal companions of his brother, after being captured and imprisoned from the city of Karbala to the city of Kufa.
Yes.
Now in the majlis of Ibn Ziyad, he is addressed by Ibn Ziyad by this sentence: كيف رأيت الله صنع الله بأخيك وأهل بيتك. How did you find the encounter and treatment of God with your brother and your family? What was his answer? Her answer: ما رأيت إلا جميلة. I did not see except glory, except honor, except beauty.
Yes.
You see, this lady does not lose his stability and tranquility and serenity.
That's all right. So all in all, we could see that, the peace of mind and brain, which is defined in terms of secular psychology, Sayyid, is very much different from the peace and tranquility of the soul and heart, which is defined in religious framework. I do want to say, in today's psychological schools of thought, the people and these, we can say, physicians, sometimes these therapists, introduce the people some ways which is mostly related to the mind and brain calmness and tranquility. But the case is that through inner peace of the soul, even you cannot feel the stroke of a sword. Okay?
Of course.
So it would be a very much different type of peace
Of course.
in comparison to the peace therapy that we find in modern psychology. Isn't it?
Of course. All things that occur in the territory of this body, including the brain,
Uh-huh.
this physical part and organ of the body, is the fruit of those emotions and desires and feelings that take place in the territory of the heart.
Mhm.
And all these feelings and emotions that take place in the territory of the heart are the fruit
Mhm.
of the way that we think.
Okay.
It has said by the commander of the faithful that al-qalbu imam al-badan.
Mhm.
And also we have this statement that al-aqlu imam al-qalb.
Mhm.
So the root of the roots
Mhm.
is the intellect.
Yes.
The theoretical viewpoints and the doctrines in accordance to which you analyze the reality of being and
Okay.
you look at the universe.
Okay.
Okay, so the root is your worldview,
Mhm.
the way that you understand the reality of being.
Mhm.
Those actually therapists, those actually psychologists might offer some good tactics,
Yes.
but they are not racial and fundamental strategies. The
Uh-huh.
fundamental strategy is to construct and establish the lines of your thought in accordance to the reality of being.
Mhm.
In the example that I brought up, if the fabric of the understanding, if the lines of understanding of our guests
Yes.
would have been in accordance to the reality of
Mhm.
being, they never would have come with the sense of fear.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
So if we correct the way that we look at the reality of
Mhm.
being,
Mhm.
if we are able to find the reality of
Yes.
being as it is, exactly in accordance to what it is.
Mhm.
So, in different occasions and situations, we won't come up with
Yes.
fake and false
Yes.
emotions and feelings. So, in the realm of this body and brain,
Mhm.
wrong actually matters and substances and hormones, for example,
Mhm.
would not be
Yes.
Produced.
Yes.
Okay.
It is very much also, dependent on our worldview, whether we look at this world as a bridge to the other world, or no, everything will be finished by our death. On that time, we try to invest as much as possible on this world. Through ups and downs of the societies, the people might go and commit suicide. They will lose their hope in everything. They would, we can say, be afflicted by the hardships. They do not find the tranquility and rest at all. So they are going to, for example, buy pills in order to
Yes, of
find such,
Of course.
rest and peace. We have very beautiful ayah in the Holy Quran, Surah Rad, ayah 28, which says that verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest.
Good, good.
I mean, this finding rest is very much different from consuming pills
Of course.
in order to go to a nice sleep overnight.
Actually, by having those pills, the human being tries to take refuge to something temporary.
Yes.
Okay? And after the end of the influence of that temporary
Yes.
tool and instrument, you have to take your refuge to something else, to something else, to
Yes.
something else,
Okay.
to the music, to the pill, to cinema, to something big, like big toys, like cars and motorcycles and jet skis and something like these. But whenever you come to these tools and instruments and you finish the whole experience that is able to carry it out and to conduct and to fulfill through these instruments, you come up with the same feeling of sadness and depression and disappointment, and so you
Okay.
have to take refuge to something else. But in accordance to the correct worldview, we will be able to take refuge to something that is infinite, that is endless.
Very good.
Okay?
Yes.
You mentioned the point of death.
Yes.
I wanted to ignore and pass, actually, and overlook this instance, but let me read it, and after that I will go through three elements and constituents that in their aggregation they produce a very complete world of view the fruit of which is this constant calmness and tranquility. Three elements, three constituents, inshallah, I will go through. But what is that example? Another example, also in the book of Luhuf, which is the martyrdom account of the Sayyid al-Shuhada Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam, Nafi ibn Hilal, which is one of the narrators of the tragedy of Karbala, says this sentence, and it is quoted by Sayyid ibn Tawus, the author and the writer of the book of Luhuf.
That's right.
He says, فَوَقَفْتُ عَلَيْهِ وَأَنَّهُ لَا يَجُودُ بِنَفْسِهِ. This is the last moments of the life of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam. After having those troubles and tribulations and afflictions and trials and difficulties, having his companions, his household murdered, his family are going to be captured and imprisoned.
Yes.
All those problems and difficulties he suffered, and at the moment of his martyrdom, Nafi ibn Hilal says, I was able to split the lines of the soldiers of the enemy, and I was able to stand in front of the body and the frail and fragile corpse of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, and it was at the moment of his last breaths. فَوَاللَّهِ, he says, فَوَاللَّهِ مَا رَأَيْتُ قَتُّ قَتِيلًا مُدَمَّخًا بِدَمِهِ أَحْسَنَ مِنْهِ وَلَا أَنْوَرَ وَجْهًا وَلَقَدْ شَغَلَنِي نُورُ وَجْهِهِ وَجَمَالُ هَيْبَتِهِ عَنِ الْفِكْرَةِ فِي قَتْلِهِ. I had never seen neither a corpse covered with its blood more beautiful than his, nor a face more shining and illuminative than his. So I was totally distracted from his martyrdom by the light of his face and the beauty and glory of his gravity and dignity. At the last moments of this life, being suffered from all those difficulties and problems and tribulations and afflictions, he has this shining face and this smiling lips. Okay?
These are really beautiful moments of the life of Abu Abdullah Hussein. He has also so many beautiful words when he's going to be martyred, talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even talking to the enemy forces, inviting them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has no fear in heart.
Of course.
Of course, fear of heart and soul in terms of, these enemy forces. He calls himself truly an abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is fearful about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay? He has this sense of, we can say, khushu and khuzu in his heart regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in his words, in all these troubles, sometimes we got a simple cold, or cough, or, sore throat, or something like that. So we cannot tolerate even our children, our parents around, okay? We want to get to the physician as fast as possible, get something, injection or a pill or something like that to get rid of the cold. But now look that, as you said, with all these hardships around and afflictions around, Imam is as if he's in a garden. He's passing life in a verdant green garden, which is beautiful with flowers around, okay? And how much, what can really link the Imam to the true source of energy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Of course.
This is the key to success.
Of course, we want to go to the next part, that is that kind of meaning of the life, that kind of theory that supports this kind of life, the life of tranquility and constant serenity and peace and calmness and comfort and ease. I want to mention sort of constitution, sort of structure, sort of worldview that consists of three elements and constituents. If we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as an entity and an existence acquiring three fundamental elements and attributes. He's all present first.
Yes.
He's all merciful and compassionate second. And the third element, that he is the trainer and educator and instructor. So he is an all-present entity, infinitely and endlessly, endlessly, He is present everywhere. And He is the source of endless devotion and love and compassion and kindness. This is the second element. And the third element, that He is the educator and trainer and instructor. So let me speak about the first element. The commander of the faithful, which is the human personification and example and manifestation of this constant peace and calmness and tranquility, says, ما رأيت شيئا إلا ورأيت الله قبله وبعده ومعه. This is the way that I look and I understand everything. Whenever I turn my eyes, whenever I turn my face, whatever I perceive and comprehend, I do not conceive, perceive, comprehend them, except I see the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala around it, before it, and after it. I see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala present everywhere. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the source of all devotion and love and compassion to every single one of these creatures that are created by Him.
Okay. So feeling Allah in any moment and second of our life, over us, controlling us, will bring a kind of relief and calmness to our soul, isn't it?
You are not separated, segregated from this source of all.
But you have to feel it, Sayyid, isn't it? I mean, you have to know that, for example, there is a God supervising you, okay?
Of course.
So if you feel His presence at that time, automatically a kind of peace of heart and soul will be brought to you, isn't it?
It is, of course,
okay.
But it is not the case of the mere feeling. So how should I feel this constantly? It refers back to the realm of your intellect, okay? Your worldview.
Very good.
This is the thing that we believe, that in accordance to the ayat of the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is present everywhere. Allah huwa al-awwal wal-akhir wal-zahir. He's the first, He's the last, He's the actually internal aspect of everything. He's the external aspect of everything. And this idea is totally clarified and explained and exposed and unlocked and unveiled in some disciplines of knowledge, like Islamic philosophy and Islamic mysticism.
Yes.
What is the meaning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being present everywhere? It is totally solved this problem in these disciplines of knowledge. Let me bring up a very simple example. For example, we come here in this and sit around this table, and we find this table wet. This table is wet.
Okay.
You ask me, Sayed, what is the cause of this table being wet? I tell you, for example, my hand was wet, and I put my hand on the surface of this table, so it is wet right now. You can ask, Sayed, what is the cause of your hand being wet? Okay? I say, for example, I took the handle of the door when I was coming inside the room. The handle of the door was wet, so my hand became wet. So because the touch of this table is right now wet. You can ask also about the cause of that handle being wet.
This causation change continues, go on.
Until where? Until when? Until what point? Until a point in which that the wetness is an intrinsic, essential attribute. For example, we say a cup of water, a glass of water was poured over this handle, so this handle got wet. But you cannot ask me about the cause of the wetness of the water. Okay? Because water itself is the cause and the root and the source of being wet.
Very good.
Okay?
Very good.
So, can we say that we are existence itself? If we were existence itself, it was not possible for us to experience the time and moment and occasion of being nothing. But we experienced that occasion. We were nothing 100 years ago, and we will be nothing, for example, in terms of our body, after 100 years.
Okay.
So we are not existence itself. We are not wetness itself. So the chain of the cause of this existence should be traced back and should be stopped in a point in which that existence is intrinsic and essential,
Very good.
that is the source of all existence.
Okay.
Okay? So, when this table is wet, you have to have the presence of water here, which is the source of wetness. If there is no water here,
Mhm.
you cannot attribute wetness to this table.
Okay.
So when we attribute existence to you,
Mhm.
to this wall, to this object, to this table, to the sky, to the moon,
Okay.
to the sun, to the angels, to all things,
Mhm.
which means that the source of existence and the thing that is existence in and of itself should be present there.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
So through this very simple example, we are able to get closer and closer to the idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all present.
Yes.
Because if we do not have the essential existence, so we won't be able to have the manifestations and displays
Mhm.
of the existence. And we
Yes.
all are the manifestations of existence that borrow our existence from the source of existence that is present here, like the water that should be present here in order to have this table wet.
That's all right.
So,
This was the first one, and the second one, we can say, what is it exactly? I mean, you were enumerating three important.
Of course.
Okay.
the second element was that infinite, endless existence that is all present
Mhm.
and is all and is present everywhere and in every single corner of the universe, endlessly, infinitely, is the source of infinite, endless devotion and compassion and love.
Mhm.
Okay?
Very good.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of His infinite love and devotion and compassion to every single one of His creatures and manifestations, made all those creatures and manifestations to come to the scene of existence.
Mhm.
And according to this philosophical, mystical analysis that we learn in those disciplines of knowledge, every single manifestation and creature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is supported by endless devotion
Mhm.
and compassion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is endless devotion and love towards His attributes, so He wants to see and have His attributes, His intrinsic attributes, externally and exoterically outside the realm of His essence. So because of His infinite devotion and love towards His attributes, He made them manifested. He made them displayed. He made them coming out there.
Yes.
Okay? So all of us that are different creatures and manifestations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is supported by the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on the focus of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, supported by infinite love.
Mhm.
It's very important.
Yes.
It's very important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran says, وَرَحْمَتِي وَسَعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ.
Mhm.
وَرَحْمَتِي وَسَعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. This is my mercy. This is my devotion. This is my compassion that encompasses all things and everything.
That's right.
There is a very nice sentences written by this great Islamic philosophy Avicenna
Yes.
in his book of Isharatu Tanbihat. He says that Arif is the one who is able to look at every single creature and every single manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, supported by His endless existence and His endless devotion and compassion.
Mhm.
So because of finding the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His endless devotion and compassion in every single creature, this Arif comes up with a feeling of the experience of an infinite joy and enthusiasm and cheerfulness
Mhm.
whenever and in any way he turns his eyes.
Yes.
He says, العارف حش بش بسام يبجل الصغير من تواضعه كما يبجل الكبير وينبسط من الخامل كما ينبسط من النبي وكيف لا يهش وهو فرحان بالحق وبكل شيء فإنه يرى الحق فيه. The Arif, and we mean by the Arif those friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
Yes.
and Anbiya and A'imma were the greatest Urafa who were able to figure out and recognize the reality of being as it is, who were able to comprehend and feel the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala supporting His creatures and His manifestations by this infinite love and devotion. So they were very, very happy. They were always cheerful. They were always gladsome and joyful because of finding the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everywhere.
Okay, all in all, we could see it very much depends on our worldview, and this seeing is important. I mean, we must, as you said, and as Visana said, we must see what's happening around us, see the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala around us, in every creature. In this way, I think we are going to do a kind of correction of our understanding, and worldview is going to be corrected about the world around. On that time, I think you somehow find yourself linked to the source of infinity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Of course, very good, very good.
So in this way, not every tribulation, trials, and hardships and afflictions cannot affect you easily.
Good.
Okay.
And by this point, we are able to be conveyed to the third
Third
element.
That's right.
So when we are able to see the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everywhere, within our existence, within everything that's surrounding us, that surround us, in any case, either the case of comfort and ease, or the case of those trials and tribulations and sufferings and afflictions and pains, because we find ourselves supported by the infinite love and devotion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are able to analyze these cases of comfort and these cases of pain in the correct way.
Yes.
We see both just the workshop that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as our trainer and instructor, has prepared for us to get grown and grown, to get more strong and more strong. Because this is us, that through our free will, that has to choose the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make them dominant over the territory of our existence, against over the armies of ignorance and shaitan. And I spoke about this fact in the previous session. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed for us, has actually exposed for us and unveiled for us the pattern that He designed for the life of human being in this material world.
That's right.
I am your Lord, I am your Creator, I am the one that loves you infinitely, but be totally aware about the workshop and the gym actually that you are located in this material world. Every single moment of joy or pain that you confront in this material actually life is sort of exercise that you have to deal with in order to become united with one of my names and attributes.
Very good.
Either the cases of joy or the cases of pain.
Pain, that's right. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I think it is in Surah Ash-Shahr, ayahs 5 and 6, says that, for indeed with hardship will be ease.
Good.
Okay,
Of
and
course.
indeed, again emphasis, with hardship will be ease. So, I mean, that's right. On that time, all these afflictions, these pains, this sickness, COVID-19, okay, can be taken as an examination of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you even can find peace in the most difficult times of your life if you change your worldview into this one. That's right. Okay.
Let me mention ayah 15th and 16th of Surah Al-Fajr that unveils for us this secret.
Very good.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these two ayat says, فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانِ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَّمَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمَهُ وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانَ كَلَّا. When we experience the condition and the circumstances of comfort and ease and joy in the life, we think that we have sort of relation of kinship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and because of that He has glorified me, He has honored me, and He has bestowed honor and bounties upon me. Whenever we experience the circumstances of pain and afflictions and tribulations and trials, we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has constructed the relation of enmity with us. He had, for example, this hatred from us, so He puts us this under this pressure and in this difficult situation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Kalla. Kalla. Never. Never ever. Not because neither because of the relation of kinship, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts you in the circumstances of joy, nor because of the relation of enmity, He puts you in the circumstances of pain.
Yes.
Both situations are your examinations and tests in order to be able to choose the correct name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and adhere to it and get unified with it to elevate, to ascend, to exalt.
That's right.
A very beautiful example.
Sorry, before getting to example, very much reminds me of this ayah of the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 286. It says, Allah does not burden a soul beyond that it can bear.
Of course.
Okay.
Because we want just to train us. Just look at, imagine an instructor and trainer that is under supervision of which an athlete exercises. Yes, when you have to burden the weight of this, I don't know what it is called in English. This we call it in Farsi dumbbell, for example, or this weight.
Yes.
To do that, this instructor, this trainer, won't put the burden of a sort of weight that is beyond your capacity. Okay, it is difficult for you, but you can. But you can. Okay,
that's right.
Because he concerns about you. He is worried about you. He wants to improve you. He wants to make you progress. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the same relation with us.
That's right.
Just look at this nice example. We all have heard the story of Prophet Ayyub, which is this personification and example of patience. In between and among Anbiya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We all know about his story, that he is the example of patience. He was a very wealthy man. He was a very strong and powerful man. He was very rich. He had 12 powerful young children, sons. He had a great and vast agriculture, and he had numerous farms. He had numerous and multiple flocks of sheep and goat and cows. We all have heard about the history of Prophet Ayyub, that in a fire he lost his all agriculture and farms. In an earthquake he lost all his sons. In a flood he lost his animals and goats and sheep. He suffered after that sort of very difficult pain and disease. It was a very difficult disease.
Yes.
It was sort of contagious one.
Yes.
It was contagious one. And because of that, the people of the city dismissed him from the city and forced him to go and live out of the city. So he took refuge into a cave.
Yes.
In such difficult circumstances, his wife was forced to come to the city daily and serve in the house of the people of the city as a servant, in order to be able to take their leftover food and bring that leftover food for Prophet Ayyub.
Yes.
So this is a very difficult situation.
Some say 7, some say up 7 to 18 years.
At least it was 7 years.
Yes, it took
his suffering.
Yes. Yeah.
The glorious and beautiful point is that the wife of Prophet Ayyub, in accordance to the historical accounts, was either the daughter of Prophet Yusuf or his granddaughter.
Okay.
They say he was the daughter of Prophet Yusuf, the wife of Prophet Ayyub.
That's right.
This daughter of Prophet Yusuf, Prophet Joseph, was forced to come inside the city and go to the house of the people of the city and serve them to take the leftover food for Prophet Ayyub. It was a very difficult situation.
Yeah.
In some of those instances of working in the house of some people, Shaitan appeared to this woman, to this pious lady. He wants to bother this lady and make her go astray and exposing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He told her, you were the one who experienced the castle
Yes.
of your father Joseph.
Yes.
He was the king of the kings.
Yes.
You had everything.
Mm-hmm.
You were totally equipped
In
with
ease and
ease
comfort.
and
That's
comfort.
right. Okay.
But look at your Lord
Mm-hmm.
that has put you in such circumstances that you have to work as a servant in the
Houses of the
houses
people.
of the people
That's right.
and take the leftover food of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at the answer of this lady.
Okay.
She says, I extend my thankfulness and gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that put me in two different situations.
Mm-hmm.
He put me in the situation of comfort and ease in the castle of my father, so I became united with his name of Shakur.
Mm-hmm.
And he also put me in this situation of disease and pain and suffering and difficulty, so I became the name of his Sabbar.
Yes.
So he prepared both fields for me
Patient. That's right.
to exercise both his names.
That's right.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Sabbar and Shakur. He's patient and grateful. Now I am patient and grateful like him.
Mm-hmm.
So I experience his names and I enjoy
Yes.
being unified with his names and getting close to his names and attributes.
That's right. As we read in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 45, that seek help through patience and prayer.
Of course.
And
of
this
course.
is what
Yeah.
the wife of Prophet Ayyub did. That's right. Thank you very much, Sayyid. Also, we got a question for you over here live on Zoom. Dear viewers, you are watching Thaqalayn Talk. Assalamu alaikum. What is the role of the love to Allah to attain the real peace in our life? I think somehow you answered this question,
Yes.
but as a just a summary and your final remarks.
Actually, the
Wow.
whole creation, brothers and sisters, the whole creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is surrounded by two lines of love. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of love towards his attributes, made them manifested. And those manifestations that are his creatures, because of the love of towards their source, they get ascended and they get elevated.
Yes.
One more time. It means inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Ala ila Allah tasirul umur. Everything and every effort and every creature goes back to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of his infinite love, has created us and these creatures, because of the love towards the source of all power and all knowledge and all strength, wants to go back towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us,
Yes.
and we love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we might be wrong in the instance of that love.
Yes.
Okay? We
Yes.
may direct this love towards this object, towards that car, but they are finite. They are finite. They are not able to satisfy and answer that need of the infinite power and beauty and actually wealth that is not but the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That's all right. Thank you very much, Sayed Ali Musawi Jazayeri, for a nice
You're welcome, dear brother.
elaboration regarding inner peace, how to reach calmness in the true sense of the world, especially in today's world. And we hope that this holy month of Ramadan, which is the best of opportunities and chances given to us Muslims by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is a way to find sakina, as we
Inshallah.
call it, and the calmness of the heart. And we know that, of course, the concept of sakina and finding sakina is really an important one. Inshallah, we got a chance to elaborate more on this
Inshallah,
topic in
inshallah.
upcoming sessions of the program. But thank you very much,
You're
Sayyid.
welcome, brother.
Really fruitful discussion. I benefited
Thank you
very
so
much
much.
from your speech.
Alhamdulillah.
It was very kind of you. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome, dear brother.